Sweet friend, can we just be honest for a moment? Life can feel like it's a runaway train sometimes. The bills keep stacking, the phone keeps buzzing, and our minds race faster than we can breathe. And if we're not careful, worry sneaks in like an uninvited guest and sets up camp right in the middle of our hearts. I know that kind of heaviness, the kind that makes you feel like you're carrying the world on your shoulders while trying to smile like everything's fine. But here's the good news. We were never created to carry that weight alone. God doesn't stand off at a distance saying, "Figure it out." No, he leans in close, like a loving father, and whispers, "Place it here. Put it in my hands. I can handle what you can't." And when we finally unclench our fists and release those worries into his care, something beautiful happens. Peace begins to rise where panic once lived. Rest takes the place of restlessness. So today, I want to talk to the worrier in you, the one who lies awake at night, rehearsing all the what ifs, because your overwhelmed heart doesn't have to stay that way. You can trade your chaos for calm, your anxiety for assurance, and your fear for faith when you learn to let God hold what was never meant for you to carry. Worry drains you, but surrender fills you with peace. Think about it for a moment. How often do we find ourselves running in circles in our minds, replaying every possible outcome, every worst case scenario, every what if that could possibly happen? Worry is like a thief that sneaks in quietly and steals our joy before we even realize it's gone. It takes our energy, it exhausts our emotions, and it blinds us from seeing the blessings that are right in front of us. When we let worry dominate our thoughts, it becomes the loudest voice in the room, drowning out truth, hope, and even the promises of God. We end up weary, restless, and heavy, not because life is impossible, but because we're trying to hold it all together in our own strength. But here's the truth. Worry doesn't solve a single thing. It never pays a bill, never heals a body, never restores a relationship, never adds a single hour to our lives. In fact, it does the opposite. It robs us of today while we're fixated on tomorrow. And yet, even knowing that, we still cling to it. Why? Because worry tricks us into thinking that if we hold onto the problem tightly enough, somehow we'll gain control. But in reality, it only tightens the chains around our spirit. That's where surrender comes in. Surrender is not giving up. It's giving over. It's saying, "God, I can't carry this, but I know you can." When we finally open our hands and release the weight we've been clutching, we create space for God's peace to enter. It's like a trade. You hand him your fear, and he gives you rest. You hand him your questions, and he gives you assurance. You hand him your weakness, and he clothes you in his strength. And the peace that he offers isn't fragile or temporary. It's a peace that surpasses understanding, a calm that doesn't depend on circumstances, a rest that anchors your soul when everything around you feels unstable. Surrender doesn't mean that the storm vanishes overnight. It means that you're no longer standing in the storm alone. It means you've chosen to let the one who commands the winds and waves take the wheel. It means you can lay your head down at night, knowing that the God who never sleeps is still working, still moving, still carrying what you could not. That's where true peace is found, in his hands, not ours. And here's the beauty of surrender. It changes how we live. When you're no longer drained by worry, you can love more freely, serve more joyfully, and walk more confidently. You don't wake up every morning dreading the day. You rise knowing that no matter what comes, God is already there. You begin to notice that the burden you thought would crush you has now become a platform for your faith to grow. You find yourself lighter, freer, calmer, not because life suddenly became easy, but because you stopped carrying what was never meant for you. So, friend, if you're weary from carrying the weight of worry, it's time to surrender. Let go of the need to control, the endless rehearsing of what might happen, the fear that grips your heart at night. Place it all in God's hands. He's big enough to hold it, wise enough to know what to do with it, and loving enough to walk you through it. Worry drains you, but surrender fills you with peace. And once you taste that peace, you'll never want to go back to carrying it all on your own again. God's hands are stronger than your heart's burdens. Every single one of us has walked through seasons where the weight on our heart feels unbearable. It could be the loss of someone we love, the uncertainty of the future, the stress of finances, or the ache of broken relationships. When those burdens pile up, they press down heavy on our chest, making it difficult to breathe, difficult to hope, and difficult to keep moving forward. Sometimes it feels like you're carrying a backpack filled with rocks, and with each day another stone gets added until you're bent over with exhaustion, wondering how much longer you can keep walking. And yet, even when we feel like our strength is gone, there's a deeper truth we need to hold onto. Our burdens are never greater than the hands that hold us. God's hands are not weak, fragile, or limited the way ours are. They are the same hands that stretched out the heavens and set the stars in place. They are the same hands that carved out the oceans and shaped the mountains. They are the same hands that carried the cross and bore the weight of our sin so that we could know freedom. If his hands could hold the universe together and still hold on to us, then surely they can carry whatever burdens weigh down our hearts. Nothing you face is too heavy for him. What breaks you down does not break him down. What feels impossible to you is effortless in his strength. The challenge, however, is that we often cling to our burdens instead of releasing them. We grip tightly to our pain, our fear, our disappointments, almost as if carrying them ourselves will prove that we're strong enough. But true strength is not found in holding on. It's found in handing over. When you place your burden in God's hands, you're not giving up. You're making a powerful exchange. You give him your sorrow, and he gives you his comfort. You give him your fear, and he gives you his courage. You give him your weakness, and he pours his strength into your soul. His hands do not tremble under the weight of what overwhelms you. Instead, they steady and sustain you in ways you could never manage on your own. There's also something deeply personal about God's hands. They aren't just powerful, they are gentle. They are the hands of a loving Father who doesn't shame you for being weary, but welcomes you with compassion. He invites you to lay down what you were never created to carry and rest in the safety of his grip. His hands don't just lift your burdens, they hold you. And in that holding, there's a peace, a reassurance, a stillness that tells you, you are safe here. You are not alone. You don't have to keep striving. I've got you. When we live with the confidence that God's hands are stronger than our heart's burdens, our perspective changes. The problems may still be there, but we are no longer crushed by them. We begin to walk lighter, breathe deeper, and rest easier. We can face tomorrow not because we have it all figured out, but because we trust the one who holds tomorrow in his hands. And that trust becomes our peace. So, If your heart feels heavy today, if you've been silently carrying burdens that no one else sees, hear this truth. You don't have to carry it by yourself. God's hands are open, ready, and strong enough for whatever you lay in them. Release what's been breaking you down and let Him lift you up. You will find that His strength never fails, His hands never falter, and His love never lets go. God's hands are stronger than your heart's burdens. And when you finally surrender them into His care, you'll discover that the weight that once crushed you is now carried by the one who loves you most. Rest is not found in control. It's found in trust. For most of us, rest feels like a faraway dream. We lie down at night, but our minds don't stop racing. We go on vacations, but we pack our stress right along with us. We smile in public, but inside we're weary and worn. Why? Because we've convinced ourselves that if we can just control every detail, then maybe finally we'll feel secure. But control doesn't bring rest. It only multiplies anxiety. The more we try to micromanage life, the more we realize how little control we actually have, and that realization leaves us restless. True rest isn't the absence of problems. It's the presence of trust in the one who holds all things together. Control is exhausting. It's like trying to hold back the tide with your bare hands. You strain, you struggle, but the waves keep coming anyway. We make lists, schedules, and plans to protect ourselves from uncertainty, but life has a way of unraveling even our best strategies. A sudden diagnosis, an unexpected bill, a conversation we didn't see coming. These reminders expose just how fragile our grip really is. And every time our control slips, our peace slips with it. That's because rest was never meant to be built on what we can hold on to. It was always meant to be built on who is holding us. Trust, however, shifts everything. Trust says, I don't have to know how this will turn out because I know who is in charge of it. Trust lets us loosen our grip on outcomes, on people, on circumstances, and place them all in God's capable hands. When we do that, something powerful happens inside of us. The weight lifts. The fear quiets. The restlessness gives way to calm. That's because trust anchors us to a peace that doesn't depend on perfect conditions, but on a perfect God. Think about it. A child doesn't rest because they control their environment. They rest because they trust their parent is watching over them. They can sleep soundly in the back seat of a car on a dark highway, not because they know the directions, but because they know who is driving. That's the same posture we're invited to take with God. He doesn't ask us to figure everything out. He asks us to lean on Him, to trust Him enough to rest even when the road ahead is uncertain. The irony is that the very rest we're desperate for will never be found in our striving. It comes in surrender. Rest begins where control ends. When we finally acknowledge that we are not God, that we cannot fix every problem, that we cannot carry every burden, we open the door for His peace to flood in. That's when we discover that His strength is enough, His wisdom is greater, and His love is steady even when life is shaky. Resting in trust doesn't mean you stop caring or stop acting. It means you stop carrying what was never yours to carry. You still show up, you still do your part, but you no longer lie crushed under the pressure of holding everything together. Instead, you move through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that even if things don't go according to your plan, they are still in God's plan. And His plan is always for your good and His glory. So, friend, if you're tired of being tired, if your soul is restless from the endless pursuit of control, it's time to trade control for trust. Hand over the outcomes. Release the fear of what if, and lean into the God who sees the end from the beginning. Rest is not found in control, it's found in trust. And when you learn to trust Him fully, you will find a rest deeper than sleep, stronger than fear, and steadier than any storm life could ever bring. Faith turns anxiety into assurance. Anxiety has a way of creeping into our lives quietly but forcefully. It starts as a small concern, a single thought that whispers, "What if?" But before long, that whisper becomes a chorus, echoing through your heart and mind until it drowns out peace completely. Anxiety convinces you that you have to be ready for every possible outcome, that you need answers for questions you don't even know how to ask yet. It shakes your confidence, disrupts your sleep, and steals your joy. Left unchecked, anxiety becomes a constant companion, one that tells you to brace for the worst even when nothing is happening. But faith, true, living faith, has the power to take those anxious thoughts and transform them into deep assurance that you are not alone and that God is in control. Faith doesn't pretend that life is easy. It doesn't deny the reality of uncertainty, challenges, or pain. What faith does is reframe them. Faith steps into the same storm that breeds anxiety and says, "Yes, the winds are strong, but my God is stronger. Yes, the waves are high, but my God walks on water." Faith doesn't erase the storm, it changes how you experience it. Anxiety looks at what could go wrong. Faith looks at the one who makes things right. Anxiety focuses on your weakness. Faith focuses on His strength. Anxiety ties you in knots. Faith loosens the grip and gives you room to breathe. Assurance is the fruit of faith. It's the quiet confidence that settles into your soul even when circumstances remain uncertain. It's waking up in the middle of the night with 1,000 thoughts pressing in, but then remembering God is with me, God is for me, and God has already gone ahead of me. That assurance doesn't come from wishful thinking. It comes from knowing the character of the one you trust. He has been faithful before, and He will be faithful again. He has carried you through valleys, and He will not abandon you in this one. Assurance isn't the absence of problems. It's the presence of trust that your problems are in the hands of a God who never fails. Think about the times in your life when worry consumed you. Did the worrying itself ever change the outcome? Most likely, it only wore you out. Now think about the moments when you leaned into faith, when you chose to pray instead of panic, when you decided to trust instead of tremble. Those were the moments when peace began to rise up in you. That's because faith opens the door for God's peace to enter. It shifts your focus from fear of the unknown to confidence in the one who knows all things. Anxiety says, "What if everything falls apart?" Faith answers, "Even if it does, God will hold me together." Anxiety says, "I can't handle this." Faith replies, "I don't have to, because God can." Anxiety thrives on doubt. Faith thrives on truth. And when faith takes root in your heart, assurance grows like a steady flame, lighting up the dark places where fear once reigned. Friend, you don't have to live enslaved to anxiety. You don't have to let worry dictate your days or sleeplessness rob your nights. Faith is your way out. Not blind faith, not shallow hope, but real trust in a God who has proven Himself again and again. He is bigger than your fears, stronger than your battles, and more faithful than your doubts. Faith turns anxiety into assurance because faith redirects your gaze. Instead of staring at the problem, you look to the problem solver. Instead of obsessing over what you cannot control, you rest in the one who controls it all. And in that shift, peace comes. Rest comes. Confidence comes. You begin to walk lighter, not because life is suddenly easy, but because you are no longer carrying the weight alone. Faith has taken your anxiety and turned it into assurance that no matter what comes, you are safe in God's hands. What overwhelms you never overwhelms God. Life has a way of throwing waves at us faster than we can catch our breath. Problems pile up, situations spin out of control, and before long, it feels like we're drowning under the weight of it all. Your heart races, your mind can't find quiet, and your body feels the stress of carrying what seems too heavy to bear. We call it being overwhelmed. When life's demands outpace our strength, when the questions outnumber the answers, when the chaos drowns out the calm. And if we're honest, most of us have been there more times than we'd like to admit. But here is the truth that changes everything. The very things that overwhelm us never overwhelm God. He is never caught off guard, never anxious, never wringing his hands, wondering what to do next. While we see chaos, he sees a plan. While we feel pressure, he operates with perfect peace. While we worry about what's ahead, he's already there, making a way where we can't see one. What knocks us down doesn't even shake him. What feels impossible to us is already finished in his hands. When we're overwhelmed, our natural instinct is to either try harder or shut down completely. We strive, fight, and scramble to fix it ourselves. Or we collapse under the weight and give in to despair. But God offers us another option, to bring our overwhelmed hearts to him. He invites us to trade the chaos in our minds for the calm in his presence. He invites us to step out of panic and into prayer, to shift our focus from what's too heavy for us to what is never too heavy for him. Scripture reminds us again and again that God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. That means when the storm rages, he isn't distant. He's right there, steady and unshaken. It means that when your capacity runs out, his capacity is limitless. It means that when you reach the end of yourself, you have not reached the end of him. He is the God who holds galaxies in place, who speaks and the seas obey, who breathes life into dust. Do you really think the burden on your shoulders is too much for him? The beauty of God's strength is not just that he can handle what overwhelms us, but that he cares enough to carry it for us. He doesn't just flex his power from afar, he leans in with compassion. He doesn't shame you for being overwhelmed. He comforts you in it. He whispers, "Give it to me, I can take it. I can carry you through this." And when you do, you discover that peace begins to return, strength begins to rise, and hope begins to grow where despair once ruled. What overwhelms you never overwhelms God. And that truth changes how you face life. Suddenly, you don't have to walk into every situation weighed down by fear. You don't have to stay up all night trying to figure out every possible outcome. You don't have to live crushed by burdens you were never designed to carry. You can face the unknown with confidence, not because you are strong enough, but because you know the one who is. So, friend, if you are overwhelmed today by responsibilities, by grief, by uncertainty, by battles that feel too big, remember this: God is not overwhelmed. He is steady, sovereign, and strong. His hands are big enough to hold it. His wisdom is deep enough to guide you through it. And his love is faithful enough to sustain you in it. You don't have to drown in the waves when the one who walks on water is in the boat with you. Hand over what is crushing you and trust the God who cannot be crushed. What overwhelms you never overwhelms him. And when you rest in that truth, you'll find that what once felt unbearable is now carried by the one who cannot fail.